Welcome back to the ninth installment of this Beginner's Guide to Understanding Chemistry lecture series. Today we'll be talking about polyatomic ions and strong acids. Polyatomic ions. Some ions are made up of multiple atoms bonded together, which are called polyatomic ions. Poly is the word for many, and ion means it is a charged atom. Polyatomic ions have non-systematic names. Do not memorize these. Just be aware they exist. If you do take a general chemistry course at a university, they would probably ask you to memorize these, but because we are not, just be aware they exist. They're actually very useful for organic chemistry. So cation means that it is a positively charged ion. And in this case, our polyatomic cation is NH4+, also called ammonium. And then we have polyatomic anions. These are the following. This first one is called acetate. This second one is called cyanide. This third one is called nitrate. This fourth one is called phosphate. This fifth one is called sulfate. And the sixth one is called carbonate. Just be aware that these exist. For now, we won't talk too much about these other than they exist. We'll talk about these more when we talk about Lewis structures in this course. These are actually very useful in organic chemistry, polyatomic ions. So we'll look more at these in the near future. For now, I just want to introduce the idea. This topic will glaze over because I don't think it's important that you guys know how to name acids. I think it's important to understand concepts, not structural things like naming. But we'll gloss over it just to make you aware. We won't get into the reason why strong acids are strong acids yet. We'll get to that probably in about 10 or so lectures. But for now, here is the system of naming acids. In general chemistry, there are 7 strong acids. Here is how we name them. We'll take H, we'll turn that into hydro for H. Chlorine will become chloric, and then we'll add acid to the end for hydrochloric acid. HBr, same thing. We'll call this H-hydro. Bromine will become bromic, and then we'll add acid to the end to indicate it is an acid. Hi is another strong acid. Hydro, iodine will become iodic acid. These next 4 are not conventional names for acids. There's not really a systematic way of naming these. How they are named is we'll name what they name. We'll change the name of the ion that represents it, the polyatomic ion, then add ic acid. This is the sulfate anion, so we'll call this sulfuric acid. NO3 minus is called, or NO3, and then be a -1 charge, is called nitrate. If you look at the previous slide, we'll call this nitric acid. HClO4, ClO4 minus is called perchloric. We add acid to the end of the name. Example 7 is ClO3. ClO3 has a minus charge, therefore we'll call this chloric acid. I have a very funny story about acids. I was working as a graduate student in a lab that with a guy who was trying to study the compounds that make beer bitter, and I was dissolving some beer, yes, beer, alcohol kind of beer, in a strong acid. When you drop a strong acid into water, the temperature rises very quickly, and I did not have an ice bath to cool it down. The whole glass shattered and spilled everywhere, including on my pants when I was working. Do not mess with strong acids. Be very careful with them. We talked about some of these acids, but we didn't talk about how the formulas are generated, like H2SO4. Let's talk about it. When we generated ionic formulas, we used the following method. We had some cation and some anion, and we did that little cool crisscross method where positive x went in front of b and negative y went in front of a to give us the general formula AyBx. We use the same method for generating acids and actually many other chemical formulas. If we have NO3, what we'll do to make this easier is put everything except for the charge in parentheses, as I have here. That'll be our B negative Y, our anion. Our H plus will be the equivalent to A with our positive charge being the cation, and we actually do the same crisscross method. This seems to trip up students quite a bit, so think about it as we go along in this lecture. We'll do the same thing. The +1 charge, or positive X, so to speak, will go in front of the NO3 anion, and the negative charge, being negative Y in the example above, will go in front of H. This will simply just give us HNO3. Notice how the 3 doesn't change. Let's go through one more. If we have our H plus cation and our SO4 2- anion, put everything except for the charge in parentheses. We do this because it's a polyatomic, which makes it a little bit trickier. People seem to get tripped up when we do this, but the parentheses really seem to help. We'll take the H positive charge on the hydrogen, put it in front of the SO4. We'll take the -2, put it in front of the H, which will give us H2SO4. When I was learning this, I was a little bit confused until somebody showed me the following way to think about it. Here's another way to think about this. If we have our SO4, that thing has a -2 charge, right? The total charge of that is -2. H has a +1 charge. So we have a +1 charge. Next to it, we have an SO4 with a -2 charge. How would we balance those out? We could actually add another hydrogen. Now we have hydrogen plus, hydrogen plus. This gives us 2 H pluses, right? This will give us 2 H pluses and 1 SO4 2-, which would give us the formula H2SO4. I hope that helped. And of course, I want you guys to do some practice problems, generate the formula for the following. These are all going to follow acids. A is H plus CO3 2-. B is H plus PO4 3-. C is H plus F-. Follow the same rules from the previous slide where we did the crisscross method. Remember to use your parentheses. The parentheses help a lot in generating the formulas. Bonus, try and name them. A and B. For A and B, how did we name acids that came from polyatomic ions? And for C, how did we name acids that did not come from polyatomic ions? Good luck. Hope to see you next time.